The subject today, I would like to dedicate the shiur to Refuah Shleima of Yosef ben Chaya. This is one of our students. One of his special zchut, I may say, is that he used to attend classes and say that even he understands very little, he always said that his neshama, his soul, understand what's going on. And this is an important statement to all of us, that if we attend or watch classes and not always understand everything, still your neshama, your soul, a friend of mine from Boston told me the same, that they feel that not always fully understand, but there's something inside, understand it. Before we go to our subject, just for those who are not so familiar with details, we are dealing here over the last several dapim before the end of this tractate with the subject of ritual impurity. It's a very general structure. When it's come to a ritual impurity, we should know that there are level of gradations. Number one, it's called Avi Avot HaTum'ah, the strictest level of ritual impurity, which is the most severe origin, literally the father of the fathers. It's the of contamination. It's touching a corpse, dead body. Dead body is the highest level. The next and far more common, it's called Av HaTum'ah, literally meaning the father, the origin of the contamination. This category includes one who touch a dead body of animal. It's a sheretz. It's one of the 8 species of the rodent or reptile. Or if you touch a nevela, a dead body of animals that not just died, but died by means other than a valid ritual slaughter. Also, zav, zava, we explain people have a discharge, etc. So these various forms are the category, it's called Av HaTum'ah, not Avi Avot HaTum'ah. It's not the grandfather, it's the father. Okay? And Mishnah in Tractate Kelim, chapter 1, elucidated all these levels. The next one who touched that, it's called Rishon LeTum'ah. A vessel or food that is contaminated by the Av is called the first degree of the contamination. So this is in our simple language, is like the grandson, right? You have the corpse, you have something that attach to the corpse, or something that the first category, such as, for example, zav, okay, men that have a discharge, or someone who touch a dead body of animal. And then we have the rishon, which is the food. The next level, it's called sheni, the second one, the second degree of the contamination. So, for example, we say that if it's a sanctified food, contamination can go further than the sheni. So sheni touch another unsanctified food, so they reach that level of even reach the shlishi and revi'i, the third and the fourth. We say that in some rare cases it can go even to the 5th level. So for doctors or people like that, they understand contamination and disease process, so they may easily comprehend that concept, that it's like a something that touch to those levels can touch other levels, but it's not necessarily touching one of them and transferring it. It can be independent entities that already carries a certain category. So what we are on page 24, 12 lines from the top of the page. Harvi'i Bakodesh Pasul, the Mishnah tells us that the fourth decree of contamination in a case of Kodesh is invalid, but only a third degree, והשלישי בתרומה, the third degree is invalid in the case of Truma, which is if the four consecutive recipient of Truma from an Av is Kodesh, it is rendered invalid for the temple service or for eating, but it's only pasul in a sense that it cannot contaminate other Kodesh. So we explain in the Mishnah that we have Chomer Bakodesh Mibitruma, that the Shlishi, the third one, can make the fourth one. The second one, Chomer Betruma, second can do the third and not further. We mentioned an example of Zav, Metzora, a leper, etc. The only exception from 4 to 5 is the ashes of a red heifer, which we call Mei Chatat. Tana, Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi teaches. So, how do you know that the third, Shlishi Oseh Revi'i Bakodesh, the third make the fourth in the Kodesh, and it's not in the Truma? Minay Revi'i Bakodesh hu pasul. So he said, Vedinhu. This is one of the Rabbi Ishmael principles. It's called Kal Vachomer. Uma Mechusar Kippurim. How do you know about sacrificial food that it's disqualified because it's if you have someone who's ritually impure that needs to bring those offerings, and it's already the end of the 7th day, the beginning of the 8th day, and the sun already set, and he still did not brought his sacrificial offering. So he just need to bring the offering, but as far as the tahara, the ritual impurity, is not mechusar, he's already completed. Shemutar bitruma, that he allowed to use truma, pasul bakodesh, that he is disqualified for a kodesh, for the consumption of sacrificial food, as the Torah specified that he cannot touch it, cannot eat kodashim. So basically the Gemara in Tractate Chagigah, which we're going to study, page 74, have a big discussion over there. The Gemara brought 3 different psukim, 3 different sentences in the Torah. Pasuk Echad, the first sentence said, Velo ye'achel min ha-kodashim, ki im rachatz et besaro b'mayim, that he cannot eat from the sanctified food until he wash his body with the water. That's the first pasuk. Then the Gemara, again in Yevamot 74, brought the second one, which is Uba HaKodesh v'ta'er ve'achar yochal min HaKodashim, that after his level of purification, only then he can eat from the sacrificial food. And then the third pasuk said, V'chiper alea kohen v'tahira, and the kohen atoned for that, and it's become pure. So you see 3 different psukim. So the Gemara over there in Yevamot 74 tells us that each pasuk carry its own importance. The first one, ba b'mayim metaher, if it's touched to the water, it become ritually pure. Number 2, uba hashemesh, when the sun set, meaning you need to have ha'arev shemesh, you need to reach a point that the sun set. Number 3, v'chiper alea hakohen, that the kohen atone for that offering, meaning you need to have a korban, a sacrificial offering, and then and only then v'tahera. It's become ritually pure. So the Gemara in Yevamot said that even Ma'aser Sheni, even the level of a second tithe, that it touched a Kodesh, something that is sanctified, and that one, Naga bin Vela, it touched a carcass, you said? The dead body. Carcass, thank you. Of a dead body. So the same is the idea of Shichvat Zera, the same idea. You need to wait for the 7 days of purification, and then he dunk himself in the mikveh, and he is pure. That's called Tvul Yom, that he needs to wait for that. So Tvul Yom allow, according to the final discussion in that Gemara, they allow to touch in chulin, in something that is sanctified food, and also in the second tithe in Maaser Sheni, betaharato. So that's the explanation of the first pasuk. The second one meaning uba hashemesh, when it's come to the shemesh day, sunset. So that's applied to the truma, and the Gemara said that truma it carries, in a way, highest level of importance and sanctity, and therefore it's carry kdosha yoter, it's carry highest level of kedusha, sanctity, and therefore tvul yom, it's not enough. Uba hashemesh, and only when the sun reached that point set, and then, and only then, v'rak az yochal, and then he can eat. So what do you do in the case of yoledet, if a woman after her childbirth, or zava, or metzora, all those levels of mechusarei kapara did not complete the process of atonement, so it's not enough that they duck themselves. That's not sufficient. And it's not enough that they reach v'ha'arev shemesh, which is the next category, the sunset. They still need to bring an offering to complete their level of purification. And then you have the third pasuk, v'chiper alea kohen ve'achar yochal. So that's what we learn, if you remember, on page 21, that it's a machloket, it's a disputation if he needs a Rev Shemesh or not, because since he reached the 8th day, it may be enough just to ask maspik betvila, enough to duck himself, and Tosfot over there on page 21 elaborates on that at length. So what you see here, what we see here is, they said shlishi, the third level of ritual impurity is mechusar kippurim, shepasul bitruma, because the truma that became the third category, it's already invalid and disqualified, and you cannot eat it the same as trumat me'ah, the ritual impure truma, eino din sheyaseh revi'i lakodesh. So Rashi tells us that one of the idea of principles of kal vachomer, how do you say in English kal vachomer? Anyone can say it? Kal vachomer, that's one of the principles of Rabbi Ishmael. Kal vachomer in general, tell me if I say it right, is when you have something that it's lenient or light, and then the Torah speaks about something that it's much stringent. So you learn from, if the Torah speaks about something light, how much so in something that is much stricter, stringent. What?
Best example I heard to kind of explain it would be to say that if I'm unable to pick up a 50-pound weight, then clearly, according to Kal Vachomer, I can't pick up a 100-pound weight. Obviously, because...
Yes, that's a good example.
Yep.
So from that point, Rashi said, there is a principle that's called dayo laba minadin liyot kenidon. So it means, since the third level, it's not pasul bitruma, it's not invalid with truma, cannot make the fourth, So how do you know that he can make the fourth one? So therefore you need this idea of kal vachomer, but always to say dayola ba min adin, it's machloket, it's disputation in Bava Kama, page 25, if it's only asmachta or not. ולמדנו שלישי לקודש מן התורה, that's the clear sentence in the Torah, ורביעי בקל וחומר, and the fourth decree of impurity from קל וחומר, reasoning. שלישי לקודש מן התורה מנין. So how do you learn that the third degree of impurity for sacrificial food, a source from the Torah? So we bring a source, dichti, because they said in Vayikra, in Leviticus chapter 7, this is about Korban Shlamim, the peace offering. The Torah said, Vehabasar asher yiga bechol tameh lo ye'achel. Any type of meat that touches any impure things, so it's already tameh, it's impure, and shall not be eaten. So since the Torah used the word bechol tameh, everything that it's impure, that's included any type of ritual impurity, including light ritual impurity. Mi lo askinan denaga basheni. Here we are not speaking about attachment to the second decree of ritual impurification, because the second decree it's impure. So the Gemarrah in Tractate Chagigah, page 20, elaborates on that and said, remember that sheretz, one of the 8 categories of creeping animals, it's considering father, av hatum'ah. And therefore the kli, the vessel, is what? Is rishon letumah. So food that inside that vessel is what? Is sheni. So therefore, since you have this earthware that you have inside even the smallest creeping animal, the Torah said, Kol asher betocho itma. Anything there, it's impure. So let's make sure that we understand this idea. You have a vessel. Inside the vessel, you have food. What we said so far, the creeping animal, fly, boom, ends up in this large part. So those who study Ilchot Ta'arovot, if you remember, we have a discussion Rosh Hashanah. You remember with the cantor? A big discussion, Siman Kuf Lamed. So anyway, it was a big discussion. If you have a large pot, you're working for Hilton, okay, and it's a kosher kitchen, okay, there are some in New York, New Jersey, and you have a large pot with expensive meat that's worth who knows how much, $500, okay, and all of a sudden, small creeping animal somehow find his way to that pot. So I'm not talking about health, because let's say it's dead there, so you just pull it out and you pull it out. Now you have an issue. The issue is, what do you do with that meat? And I'm not speaking legally, because I don't know the law of the federal states. What do you do with that food, all right? But I'm speaking halachically. So halachically, here is the issue. Okay, what do you think? It's gone? It's all gone?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, so the idea is, by halacha, in very general statement, you remember the argument that afilu be'elef lo batel. So the idea is, even if it's a small fly or a small dead animal, whatever it is, and it's a huge pot, halacha, I'm not speaking the federal law. So halacha is saying that everything there, it's become ritually impure. So here, and again, I'm not dealing yet with kashrut, I'm dealing here with impurity. So the creeping animal in a category, it's av, it's the father. It's not grandfather because it's not a dead body of human, right? It's not a corpse. It's avatuma. The vessel is what?
The vessel is Rishon.
Rishon, very good. It's the first category. The food inside the vessel is what? Sheni is the second one. So therefore, remember what happened. Because that creeping animal finds his way to that pot, as big as it is, it already makes everything there. The Torah used the word Bechol tameh lo yachel, anything, even a light tumah, all included, even light one. So then the Gemara challenged that and said, Mi lo askinan denaga besheni. Do we speak about sanctified meat that touched the second level? They said, V'ka'amar Rahmana, that the one who touched the second one, lo yachel, which means it turned to be the third level, and it became disqualified, right? So they said, Uvi'im mikal v'chomer hade amaran. So the same way as we said that mechusar kippurim, that he allowed to do the truma pasul kodesh. So if you have sheretz, that is avatuma, that is the father of ritual impurity, metameh kli, and that kli, that vessel, become rishon. So we learn that it's turned to be now sheni, and they said va'basar asher yiga bechol tameh sheni lo yachel, it's turned to be shlishi. So the Mishnah said ubitruma im nitmet, with regard to truma, if one hands become impure with impurity by a rabbinic law that renders only the hands impure, so that's an issue. Why? Because as you know, Hashem created us with two hands, each hand in a different side, different location. So here we ask a question, what happened with hands? Is one contaminate the others or not? So they said we have a different category, a different level of gradation. We said it's something that is sanctified, like the Kodesh, so one hand turned the others to be impure. Versus Truma not. Amar Rav Shizvi. Rav Shizvi limited, he circumscribed this point of halacha, and he said the whole notion of one hand makes the other one impure applies solely bechiburin shanu. It applies only when it's in a contact with sacrificial food, when impure hands touch it. So Rashi said that this is rabbinic tum'ah derabanan. So when a person touch basar kodesh, a sanctified meat, with a pure hand, while the other hand touch that meat, so again you have one hand that is pure, one that is impure. Okay, so by having these two hands touching kodesh, so the rabbis came with a decree, and they said, since hands yadayim askaniyot, and the hands can mix with each other easily, and it may touch this impure, so that's the limitation. Aval shelo bechiburin. But if the pure hand is not contact with sacrificial food, so they said lo. So it's not. So it doesn't make the other hand to be the third level of ritual impurity, and therefore the kodesh is tahor, and the decree applies only when the pure hand is touching the sacrificial food to make that kodesh pasul. Eitivei Abaye. So Abaye challenged that, and he said, Yad neguva. If you have a hand that is totally dry, without any liquid, metameh chavertal letameh bakodesh, renders its other hand impure to the extent the second hand will now render impure any food that it touches. Avalo letruma, but not with regard to the sacrificial food. Divrei Rabbi. So that's according to Rabbi. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Omer, when it's come to a dry hand, לפסול, it's only to disqualify sacrificial food that it touches. אבל לא לטמא, but not render it impure with a third degree impurity. אמרת בשלמה שלא בחיבורים. If you said that it's not in attachment, like not according to Rav Shizvi, that hand contaminated the other, בקודש, היינו רבותי דין גובה. So then we understand that that's the big chidush with a dry hand. That again, the dry hand, one hand, the one who is impure is wet, so therefore it's obvious that he makes the other one because the liquid part is rishon letuma, and then they may make the other hand to be sheni letuma. Ela I amart, but if you tell me according to Rav Shizvi, bechiburin in שלא בחיבורין לא, that only in contact with sacrificial food, yes, the decree that the second hand becomes pure applies, lest the impure hand touch the sacrificial food directly, but when it's not in contact, the decree does not apply. Mai revutei din guva. So what is the chidush with a dry hand more than the wet one? Because the only chashash, the only concern we have, it's because the one who is a kodesh touched the one that is impure, and the one that is impure doesn't have this contact with the liquid in order to make the kodesh impure. So it means that the second level of ritual impurity can render ritual impurity to a sacrificial food. So, and that's basically opposed to the limitation of Shizvi made, that it's not in direct contact. So now we dig in the whole concept of one hand can carry ritual impurity to the others when it's come to the sanctified food. Itmar nami, which means that it's like connected, but the truth is, the Dikdukei Sofrim and others say that it's not connected. It's like independent statement, and that's according to the Chazon Ish, Tractate Yadayim, chapter 7. Amar Reish Lakish, lo shanu ela yado. The whole idea that the hands render other impure, only the second hand in his own hands, which means that the one hand carries a ritual impurity to the others from the same person. 4b, aval yad chavero lo, but an impure hand with someone else, chavero, like a fellow, that's not carry ritual impurity. So Tosfot explains that the reason for Reish Lakish, it's because the decree of ritual impurity applies to both hands, since that applies to a person himself. You can mix between the hand that it's pure to the hand that it's impure, versus his fellow is by no means can be mixed. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Echad Yado, Ve'echad Yad Chavero. So he said, Rabbi Yochanan hold that regardless if it's a impure hand renders another hand impure, whether it's his own hand or it's another person's hand, provided the second hand is touched, lifsol. So by the same hand to disqualify. But aval lo letameh, but not make it ritually impure. Mimai, how do you know that his hand can make his fellow when it's come to Kodesh? So they said midektane seifa, because we learned in the last clause of the Mishnah, shehayad metam'a chaverta lakodesh, aval lo latruma. For one renders its counterpart, which means the other hand, impure, with regard to sacrificial food, but not with regard to truma. To truma, I'm sorry. So they said, ha tu lamali, why do I need the seifa, the less close? Atana le reisha, we learn it in the first part. El alav shmamina le'atu yeyal chavero. You derive from that the hand of another as well as his own other hands. So he said, El alav shmamina le'atu yeyal chavero. You have to say it applies to the hand of the another. So the Gemara add Reish Lakish Adarbe, that he agreed that the one hand carry ritual impurity even for his fellow. The Amar Rabbi Yona, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Reish Lakish, אחד ידו ואחד יד חברו באותה יד לפסול אבל לא לטמא. Says regardless that it's his hand or his fellow's hand, he can make that hand, the same hand, come into contact to ritual impurity, disqualified, but not render it impure. ולפסול אבל לא לטמא, תנאי היא. So that's disputation between the Tanaim, the Tnan. That's Mishnah Tractate Yadayim, chapter 3. כל הפוסל בתרומה, anything that is a second level of ritual impurity, and by touching truma, מטמא ידיים להיות שניות, he makes the hand to be the second level, ויד מטמא חברתה, דברי רבי יהושע, the one hand make the other ones impure, that's according to רבי יהושע. אנחנו אומרים ידיים שניות, ואין שני עושה שני, which means the second cannot make the second, the other hand second. מה אליו? שני הוא דלא אביד, השלישי אביד, but he can make it the third. So it means that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, they say that the Kodesh make it disqualified and it's not ritually impure, it's according to the sages and not according to Rabbi Yoshua. So the Gemara said, Dilma lo sheni avid velo shlishi. You may come to conclusion that the rabbis meant that the first hand does not impart impurity to the second hand, to either the second or the third degree. For in their opinion, one impure hand does not defile the other hand at all, in contradiction to the Mishnah, whereas the opinion expressed in the Mishnah or following Rabbi Yoshua. Ela, כי התנאי דתניא, יד נגובה מטמאת חברתה לטמאת בקודש, אבל לא לתרומה דברי רבי. רבי יוסף בר יהודה אומר, אותה יד לפסול אבל לא לטמא. So we said in the Mishnah, אוכלים נגובים בידיים מסועבות. One may eat dry food, which is the foods that have never been wet and is not susceptible to impurity, with impure hand in case of truma, but not in a case of sacrificial food. Tanya אמר רבי חנינא בן אנטיגנוס, וכי יש נגובה לקודש. They tell me that it's a food that is not susceptible to impurity with regard to sacrificial food. והלא חיבת הקודש מחשרתן. So the anything that is kodesh, even you don't have water or any other liquid, it's already הוכשר לקבל טומאה, already susceptible to receive ritual impurity, because חיבת הקודש, because they have this reverence accorded to the sacrificial food itself, it's כאילו הוכשר. So there's two ways can go when it's חיבת הקודש. Number one, and that's based on the Minchat Chinuch, Mitzvah Kuf Mem Hei, 145. One, if you have a kodesh food that is not huchshar, is not susceptible to receive ritual impurity by having a water or other liquid, that's point one. And the second one, something that is kodesh is not befitting for food, for example, wood, levona, so it's receive ritual impurity like a food, but it's not. So the big disputation is if it's a biblical or rabbinic, and that you see more on that in Tosfot in the previous page 23b, and also in the Tractate Pesachim, page 19. So they said, Lo tzricha, you have to say, כגון שתחב לו חברו לתוך פיו, that his fellow put a kodesh foods to his mouth, או שתחב הוא לעצמו בחוש וקרקר, or the other idea is that he inserted to himself into his own mouth by means of spindle or whirl, which is the wooden vessel without receptacle that cannot contact impurity. That's the way, most probably the ancient time they did. וביקש לאכול צנון ובצל של חולין עמהם. And he wished to eat, to put in his mouth and eat non-sacred radish or onion along with them. So he said, LaKodesh gazru bo Rabbanan. So the sages put, when it's come to the sacrificial food, they say they enacted the decree against doing it. La truma, but when it's truma in his mouth, lo gazru bo Rabbanan. The sage not enact the decree against it. Then the last part we said ha'onen, one who is in the period of mourning between the passing till burial, umechusar kippurim, and one who is lacking atonement require immersion. So they said, my tama, what's the reason for that, for this decree? Kevan de ad ha'idna havu asirei, since until now it was prohibited for them to partake of sacrificial food at any, so therefore might not have guarded themselves properly from impurity. Atztrechinu Rabbanan tvila. So the sages asked them to undergo immersion before eating sacrificial food. As we explained yesterday, before we studied this Mishnah, it's a big discussion among the rabbis how you're treating Amei Haaretz, how you're treating people who are not educated. We try to be part of the community, but they're not really educated. So the question is, in which area are you trusting them or not? As you remember yesterday we asked about borrowing vessels from them, etc. So here, one of the concerns we said yesterday is that we don't want them to build separate temples or separate altars, etc., etc. So the Mishnah said, Chomer bitruma, the stringency in truma, which means regarding to the level of truma, is שביהודה נאמנים על טהרת יין בשמן כל ימות השנה ובשעת גיטות והעבדים על הפעלת תרומה. That in Yehuda, the Amei Haaretz are believed concerning the truma of wine and oil throughout the year, and during the wine pressing and olive pressing season, the Amei Haaretz are believed even concerning the truma. As you know, the temple was situated in Yehuda, in Judah, the southern sector of Eretz Israel, from which the wine and the oil could be transported directly to Jerusalem for use for the sacrificial offering, for the sacrificial service. However, between the northern province of the Galilee and Yerushalayim, there was a strip of foreign-owned land. And since the rabbis had decreed that all foreign land should be regarded as tameh, no wine or oil could be transported from Galilee to the temple without becoming contaminated. And therefore, these laws are relevant only to Yehuda. That's basically the Gemarrah going to tell us in the next page.
Could you transmit them by sea around the... is that acceptable? Hypothetically. But
not in real life.
Okay.
So they say that they are believed concerning the tahara of wine and oil. The Amei Haaretz bring wine for the wine offering, it's called nesachim, or for the bring oil for menachot, meal offering, and claim that the wine or the oil has been pressed and transported the required tahara. They can be trusted. Even people who cannot be considered reliable with regard to truma do not take lightly the stringency of Kodesh. Although their testimony will be suspect regarding the truma, their claim concerning Kodesh are believed. So throughout the year, all the days of the year, and the Amaretz is believed at any time, if he claimed that he regarded the wine or oil from its offering. And also during the wine pressing season, during the season when grapes and olives are pressed, all people customarily purified their vessels and their utensils in order to set aside the truma and the tahara. Since it is a reasonable assumption that wine and the olive oil were pure during those times, even an Amaretz is considered trustworthy if he testified to that effect. But then the Mishnah said, Avru hagitot vehabadim. If the wine pressing and olive pressing season had passed, which means after the vintage season or after the season when most people press their olives, that's the way Tosfot Yontov explained, Ve'viu lo chavit shel yain v'shel truma, and they brought him a barrel of wine or truma, so the Kohen, he should lo yekablena mimenu, he should not accept for him. The Kohen may not accept it in the basis of the Amaret's claim that it's ritually pure. Aval manicha lagat haba'a, but he can leave it for the side for the next wine pressing season. So Amei Haaretz are regarded as dependable during the pressing season. So therefore, should one of them wish to fulfill the mitzvah of giving truma wine to the Kohen, and Amei Haaretz may store the barrel until the following vintage season, when claim of tahara will be accepted, and then he bring to the Kohen. That's the way Rashi said. Although the Kohen knows that the wine was produced before the current vintage, he may nevertheless accept it because the sages did not decree tum'ah or tahara of Amei Haaretz during the season. That's the way the Rambam tells us. ואם אמר לו, הפרשתי לתוכה רביעית קודש נאמן. However, if Amar said, he told him, within it I have separated a fourth of a log or as a kodesh. So here imagine this case that the Amaretz tells the Kohen that in the barrel of the truma wine he also placed the amount of wine that he will require for the nesachim, for the wine offering of his sacrifice, or such wine is regarded as kodesh. That's the Meiri said, and the Amaretz may testify to its tahara status. So originally it's not permissible to mix truma with kodesh, since truma is meant for the Kohen's personal use, while kodesh wine may be used for human consumption. So there is a Tosfot in Tractate Chagigah, page 35b, who said that the Amaretz will have been permitted to mingle truma with kodesh by making the following pronouncement. He said the quarter of the log that I will later set aside from this barrel to use as nesachim shall now become kodesh, and all the other wines in the barrel shall be truma. So even at the time of his declaration, it cannot be known exactly which wine will later be drawn of the nesachim. The formula is nevertheless valid. This is known what we call breira, which we discussed many times, a retroactive clarification. It provides that under certain conditions, one may assume that the later event falls under the halachic classification that he had set forth earlier. So he said ne'eman, that he is believed. Then we said kadei yain. Now number 2, kadei yain, concerning jugs of wine, v'chadei shemen hamedu ma'od, and jug of oil that are still, page 25, hamedu ma'od lagat haba'a, that they are for the next wine pressing season. נאמנים עליהם, דומאות, נאמנים עליהם בשעת הגיטות והעבדים. לגעת, אמר לו, הפרש שתוכל רבית קודש נאמן, כדי שיש יין, כדי שבדומאות, נאמנים עליהם בשעת הגיטות והעבדים. So they are trustworthy, you can believe about them doing the wine pressing and olive pressing season. וקודם להגיטות, and even for 70 days prior to the wine pressing season, וקודם להגיטות 70 יום. So you go so far that even 70 days. It was customary to begin preparation and cleansing vessel 70 days before the wine pressing season. So therefore in Haaretz is believed, that's the way Rashi said, concerning the Tahara from the time onward. The Mishnah apparently contradicts itself, because early in Haaretz who claims that the barrel contained Kodesh is trusted on, and concerning the Truma contained the same barrel. But here, however, where the wine is mingled, which is the a combination of intended of the Truma and the Kodesh, the Haaretz is believed only during the vintage season. So you see later we're going to study in Tosfot, page 26b, that all this halachot deals with one who has actually consecrated the wine for Nesachim, where he deals with actual rather than anticipated Kodesh. Even in Haaretz may be trusted to all the times. And then the last part of the Mishnah refers to one who has prepared or purchased a barrel of wine merely with the intention of using part of it for Nesachim. So since we deal here with the intentions rather than the realities, the Mishnah rules that he can be trusted only in season or during the 70-day preparation period. But it's important to know that Tiferet Israel on the Mishnah, he comments that the 70-day limitations refer to the vessels in which the future Nesachim are stored. So the Haaretz credibility concerning vessels which do not contain actual Kodesh is limited to the period when the vessel are clean for use during the vintage season.
לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי